There we go. I didn't think my camera's going to kick on. Hi. I'm going to make, hang on, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now I can.
Okay.
Let me make you host. Actually, I'm gonna make you co-host because I think that's gonna make me unhost, and I don't want to hit that button. Not that I don't trust you being host. My fear is that it'll make neither of us host.
Yeah.
All right, I'm also going to pause the recording. So just one of us will remember to unpause it. All right, well, attempting to open the room.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I know it's morning for some, it's afternoon for some, it's afternoon for me. But good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to ASU's presentation of, let's talk about not knowing what to say. As we go ahead and just have all of us come into this room today and everything, please go ahead and just pop in the chat and everything and talk about like, what do you want, what's a great takeaway from today, or, how are you feeling today? Just go ahead and just like, let's have some community before we go ahead and get started. And I do want to go ahead and let everyone know as well too, this session today is currently being recorded, at this particular time. So if you don't want to go ahead and be on camera or anything like that, feel free to go ahead and turn your camera off. Or if you want to go ahead and just, again, interact with everyone and have your camera on, that is also totally fine. So I hear that we're excited to go ahead and learn with everyone today. I see, it's beautiful in California today. It's also pretty beautiful today here in Michigan. I think it's like 77 degrees. It's going to be 77 degrees today. So spring is here. I like that. Not knowing what to say when you know that you should say something, especially when it comes to microaggressions. Overanalyzing, what can I say so to be more comfortable not being perfect? Yeah. Okay. As we do have a jam-packed session today, and it's going to be as interactive as possible, I do want to go ahead and just pretty much go ahead and get started. So today, the framing of our conversation is simply, we're going to identify and, what are our privileges and the power that we go ahead and play in interactions with others, as well as we're going to explore some different dynamics of different scenarios in workplaces, in education systems, and different things like that, and how to effectively support and advocate for others, as well as just provide overall just context that it's also okay not to know what to say. We're not always going to have the answers, and that's also okay. But how do we go ahead and show up in those spaces, and how can we go ahead and support each other? So with that, this is going to be our agenda for today. Our agenda, we're going to focus on privilege and realizing what privileges do we have and what does that even look like? So we're going to do a fun activity called Privilege for Sale. And then I'm going to put you all into breakout rooms and we're going to do that activity. And then once that activity concludes, we're going to have a group discussion because I'm pretty sure that particular activity is going to bring up may bring up some complex emotions. And I want to go ahead and make sure that we have some time to talk through that. After we do that group discussion, we're going to go into an empathy video. Brene Brown talks about empathy in a wonderful way in which I believe that can be a great takeaway of how to understand how to go ahead and interact with other individuals. And then we're going to go into a scenario workshop. So that way you can have some tangible ideas and tangible scenarios of how to go ahead and use these particular tools in real life going forward. And then towards the end, I will go ahead and introduce this social learning cycle and pretty much how does that play a role into some of these scenarios that we'll talk about today. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and just open it up for questions and open discussion. And at any point while I'm talking today, as this is going to be an interactive session, please feel free to go ahead and just drop your questions in the chat. And I do have some lovely people here from ASOE that will be moderating the chat for me if I need any assistance going forward. Without further ado, I do want to make sure that we do have time for all of our activities. We're going to go ahead and get started. So privilege for sale. So on the next slide, I'm going to go ahead and show you here. I'm going to show you pretty much a list of privileges. And for the context of this particular activity, none of you in this particular space hold any of these particular privileges. And to go ahead and earn these privileges or to pretty much get these privileges, you have to buy them back. So when I'm going to put you into the breakout rooms, each group is going to have a certain amount of money. And each privilege on the particular list is going to be $100. There's about, I think, 36 privileges on this list. And each group you're gonna have $100 to figure out what to go ahead and do. So whatever the amount of money that you have to spend is how many privileges you can go ahead and get at a particular time. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a few minutes in the particular spaces to pretty much look at these lists of privileges. And this is what the privileges look like. So there's 33 to go ahead and be exact. So once I go ahead and put you into these breakout rooms, I will share this particular document with you. So that way you can go ahead and just kind of figure out what is your group going to come up with. Each breakout room will go ahead and have a different amount of money. So when you come back as a group, we're going to kind of figure out like what groups, figured out what privileges are more important and different things like that going forward. Without further ado, let me go ahead and get our breakout room started here. And we're going to do 5 breakout rooms. And I'm opening all the rooms now.
So I don't know if one of the hosts is in the space, Anne maybe, or
Yes.
Hi.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
how can I help you?
My internet dropped
Yeah.
while I was trying to get into a breakout room, and I just got it back up again. I think I was supposed to be in breakout 4.
Okay, let me see if I am able to assign you. Give me
Okay.
just a moment. And this is
I
Jackie.
haven't.
This is Jackie. Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Hi.
Okay, so it looks like for some reason it's rejecting room 4. So I'm going to try to put you into a different room and see if
That's
that
fine.
works. Okay,
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
absolutely.
Can you do? I had the same issue. Can you do the same for me?
Okay.
And hi, Jackie.
Okay, so this is Shannon, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I do apologize. I'm just trying to see who we have here. I'm going to go down the list of everyone who is unassigned, so you may see yourself slid into a room. If not, please let me know.
Hello, everyone.
So do we have any folks here who are not in a breakout room who would like to be?
Well, and this is Jackie again.
Hi, yes.
I did make it into breakout 5. However, we
Okay.
have nothing in breakout 5. Is that intentional?
Oh, no, I believe Charles is going room to room, so I do believe he will be with you shortly.
Okay.
Yes, so I apologize for that.
No,
So
we just assumed we were
yes, and
at
we
the
also
very bottom.
had, no, that's okay. We also had an issue where some folks are able to see the slides moving and some are not. It seems to be 30% can't see them moving and 70 can.
Okay.
So some folks may be without some of the content. We're working on that in the background, so hopefully we can get that fixed up
Okay.
shortly.
Okay. Can you drop me back in 5?
I can do that. Give me just a moment.
Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, this is 3.
Yeah, it wouldn't allow me to put you back in 5. I apologize.
Once I've been there, I don't need to go back, I guess. Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Hey,
and
Charles.
this, do you mind putting me in a different breakout room also?
Absolutely, I can do this. And I'm sorry, is this Jane?
Yes, it is.
Okie dokie. Give me just
I
a
mean, 3, not 5.
I was gonna say I do apologize if you end up in a room you didn't start in. Some of them are saying that they're full when they're not. So we're,
Okay.
playing that
Yeah,
Zoom game.
that's fine. I don't need to be in a group
Okay.
with people that I work with. Thank you.
Fair enough. Alrighty. And Charles, just so you know, there seems to be about half and half of folks who can see your slides moving and cannot. I believe that is a bandwidth issue on their end, and that's just speaking from having that issue as a Penn State employee before. I could be wrong. So what I'm going to do is once we all get back together, I'm going to post in the chat basically what I just said to you.
Okay.
We'll see where people are and we can recalibrate.
Okay, cool.
Do you need anything from me right now?
No, I see there are people that are not assigned.
Some are not. I've been reassigning people back into rooms either as they come in or as they ask. If you get kicked offline, kicked off the internet, it'll kick you out of your room.
Okay, cool. I'm going to send a little message to everybody in the chat.
Yep. And if you can pop into group 5, I know they were wondering what the next steps were.
Okay, that was a group I just came from.
Okay, never mind then. Then you already
Yep.
awesome.
Breakout room broadcast.
All right, I'm gonna mute and turn my camera.
Well, I guess I don't have a breakout room. Well,
Professor Kim, I do apologize. I can go ahead and put you in a breakout room. I did not realize that you were not in a breakout room.
thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and assign you to room 2. I will say based on the flow of the chats right now and everything, I'm not going to do another breakout room at the end and everything. There's no way that I can, just because the conversation is flowing, and I do appreciate like Melissa has a room and Jamie has a room as well too.
Yeah.
Actually, like really is going really, really well. But I feel like we're going to spend a lot of our conversation really focusing on privilege today. And
Okay.
figure out this is going to need a part 2. So I'm excited.
Nice. Good, good, good. Awesome. Instead of trying to type everything I said in the chat, when people come back in, I'm just going to speak what I said about people being able to see the slides and not see them.
Say less, say less.
Cool. Because yeah, it was one of those, it does that ever happen to you when you're sending a text where you're like, all right, this is becoming paragraphs. This needs to be something else.
Yes, it's like I can't do this.
Yep.
You know, I always sometimes like the other day for my family, I most definitely made a Canva little like a little graphic because I didn't feel like you typing everything in there. And it made it like
Oh, that's great. Uh, just give me a heads up when you're pulling people back in.
Do you think bringing people back in at 12:27?
Yeah. I think that's, how long have they been in there? I should have made a note when they went in.
I didn't make that note anyway, so I think I gave them 13 minutes and that's fine.
Cool. It's like, oh, at least I'm not alone. I always do that. It's like, oh, I'll make a note. No, I won't.
Get my slide ready.
Do you have a file of this presentation that you can share?
I can save it right now as a PDF and do
Yeah, just a thought. If people can't see things, then you can say later on after the presentation if you want the file, or if
that's fine. I can do that.
cool.
I just wanted to close breakout rooms in literally 20 seconds. And now. Okay. First, I appreciate everyone for just taking time, for doing this, activity. It was a lot, figuring out what privileges are important, to us individually, what privileges are important to us as a whole is a lot, and then as you will go ahead and notice, some breakout rooms had certain amounts of money and certain ones didn't. But before I go ahead and get started and we go ahead and talk about this, I do want to go ahead and have Anne go ahead and make a quick announcement.
Yeah, just really quickly. Hello, everybody. This is Anne Grabowski. Just want to let you know that we are getting some messages that some of you are not seeing the slides moving, or that it's stuck on the first slide. It seems to be some folks can see it moving and some can't. So we are aware of that, and I do apologize if your slides are not scooting along. It may be a bandwidth issue, but either which way, Charles will have the presentation available later on to share. So this will definitely be accessible that way. I just wanted to mention that since we did have some comments in the chat, we will try to make it so everybody can see everything. And of course, if you do have any other things you want to let us know about, just let us know in the chat. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anne. And I appreciate some of the comments as well in the chat. Like, I do realize that you all may have not finished that activity at all, and that's okay. The point of that particular, activity was to go ahead and get our brains moving, to figure out what are privileges and what are, ways that we identify. And then just like you're working in a group, you all are working in that exact same group setting in work environments where we have different, ideologies, we have different privileges, we have different, ways that we think of things. One thing that I want to really focus on, like when looking at this, all of these were equally as important. Some of them are, we're just like, this is obvious. Like, we should all have this privilege and everything. Like, for example, able to obtain child custody and everything. That may seem so easy to some people, but that's not always the case. Being able to celebrate your marriages with your friends, families, and coworkers. That can seem very easy depending on how we identify, but certain people may not be able to go and do so. But I do want to go ahead and hear from you all and everything. And I will go ahead and just go room by room and everything. And if I can have at least one or two people kind of just share your budget, as well as what were the privileges you went ahead and chose. So I'm going to go ahead and go with group one first. So group one, go ahead and tell me your budget. And if you don't remember, I have it written down, and tell me the privileges that you went ahead and chose. And if you want to go ahead and just put the numbers in the chat too, so everyone can see, that's totally fine too. But group one, who is my representative?
Probably me. Sorry. I was trying to type something else in another space. So we were given $900 and we selected 7, 8, 11, 13, 16, 23, 26, 30, and 31. We created a whiteboard, had everybody throw their numbers up, and then started winnowing it down after that. I think one of the cool things about the activity, and forgive me just one second because I want to make sure I get a person's name correctly here. Angela Smith had some really, really great context around identifying things that come from a safety and security standpoint as a top priority. And I thought that was incredibly, not just a great way to organize. And I mean, them coming at that from an organization nerd, but really just very poignant to me that so many of the privileges that we take for granted that we never have to think about in a case of a safety and security prospect. So I really appreciated that input. We had another member talk about later as we kind of wrapped up and started talking about things that maybe weren't on the list is, about each of us approaching conversations without making assumptions and generalizations and being able to create a space where we can consider somebody's background and what intent might come into place. And I know that I can identify a lot with that conversation too, just as a, coming at it from a place of privilege, knowing that I'm going to, potentially say something that, I think is okay in the moment, but then in a matter of reflection, go, oh, you know what, that wasn't okay. And then be able to have those conversations without, in a space that's welcoming to that. So there's a lot of thought around that for me, and to make it all about me for a second is, also on the other side, being very well aware that people who look like me say dumb stuff all the time and have no self-awareness of it too. And that, I also have to own that sometimes those conversations are not even about me, they're reflective of other things. So yeah, it was a good talk, really good activity, Charles. I really appreciated it. So thank you for that. And that's group one with, me sprinkled in there.
Thank you, Melissa. Thank you so much, group one. I'm not going to go in order for this one. I want to go ahead and hear from group 4. From room 4, can someone tell me what was your budget and what were some conversations, or were you able to go ahead and complete the activity?
So we were pretty quiet in our room. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
But I think we came to somewhat of a consensus. We had $800, which seemed like a lot. But we went with 7, 8, 13, 14, 20, 26, 30, and 31.
Okay. So far, I'm seeing a common theme with 7, 8, and 13 right now. But thank you
And
so
I
much.
would agree that safety and security, physically, mentally, and financially played a large role in what we consider to be priorities.
Thank you so much, Brooke, for sharing. And thank you so much, Room 4, for participating in the activity. And now I want to go ahead and go to Room 5. So Group 5, what was your budget? I know you went ahead and put it in the chat, but go if someone can speak to it. What was the budget? And if someone can talk about what was happening in that room.
I can talk about it. So I posted in the chat, we were given $1,000. At first, we kind of just went through and individually kind of picked what our top one option would be. So that's what like kind of the first numbers were, and then talked about like, you know, if we were going between one or another, like, you know, what would be kind of the top things that would be important to us. So number 2 came up as well, like being able to take time off and leave for your partner and like however much time you would want for that. I also talked a little bit about traveling and kind of like more recent changes and policies with people being able to move freely within different states. But then also thinking about travel and how certain professions like being in the military can give you privilege on top of that ability to travel to different places that other people might not be able to. We also chatted a little bit about like the ability of kids to feel comfortable in some of our programs and using bathrooms when they're on campus and stuff like that. And that someone in our group kind of recognize that a lot of our numbers like 1 through 33 all had to do with like feeling validated with the people around you, so that you're, you know, like you might feel like you are maybe like an individual and you're doing stuff on your own, but that a lot of what we do socially includes the perspectives of other people around us. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing, Stephanie. And I really love that perspective. One, because that, you know, that really frames our overall conversation today in everything, and recognizing, you know, how these particular privileges do play a role in, you know, in our individual lives, and how they can go ahead and impact, you know, the people that we're working with, you know, the people that we're just interacting with, you know, and what are the negatives and positives that kind of go with that. So again, I appreciate you sharing that. So now that we've heard from Group 1 had $900, Group 4 had $800, and Group 5 had $100. I want to go to our 2 other rooms that may or may not have had a little bit more money. But let's start with Room 3. I know you all said that you didn't go ahead and finish and everything. Let's talk about what was your budget and what were some conversations.
Yeah, I'm happy to share out, and anyone else jump in, of course. But we had $1,500, so we could choose 15 privileges, and we had a very robust conversation more generally, and to go through all 33 in 10 minutes and choose 15 amongst 11 people, and figuring out who's doing what roles and who's reporting back and all that. There's a lot. But we noticed we generally chose 5 in terms of majority of folks prioritizing these things, and I've kind of synthesized and am noticing that these 5 kind of revolve around the freedom of parenting as people wish, and and being able to access their partners and experience life with their partners freely, as well as issues around race, ethnicity, and sexuality in terms of role models and paperwork and whatnot. But just generally speaking, we had some robust conversation about like what we had expected to see on the list, and one of the individuals made a comment that like all of these things are so specific, not just like talking about male privilege or white privilege, but like specific everyday activities that really make us think very specifically about privilege, which was really elicited a lot of self-reflection and good conversation. Thank you for this activity. It is.
I appreciate that, Maggie. Just being in room 3, I will go ahead and state before I go ahead and get to room 2 quickly. Room 3, you did have the most money. You all did have the most money. So for you all to also go ahead and be transparent in the chat as well too, to talk about like, hey, this was hard. This was hard and you all did have the most money and everything is very interesting. And I'll go ahead and get to that point a little later. Lastly, room 2, what was your budget? And just really quickly, what were some things that you all came up in that group?
We didn't decide who was going to talk, but I have the post-it, so I'll volunteer myself.
Okay.
So our budget, and anyone from my group, feel free to interrupt me, please. Our budget was $1,200, so we were able to pick 12 things. And so we started with like prioritizing the stuff that was life or death most imminently. So like number 13 with being safe with police officers, 23 and 15, which were using restrooms safely and being physically affectionate safely in public. And then we moved on to things that are a threat to families and kids, especially because those kids grow up and have their own perspective and their own stuff to deal with. So for that, we had 26, 22, 29, and 11, which were all the ones about custody and raising your own children and things like that. We had a few about money and financial security, which we stayed with number 3 and number 5 for that. And then we also wanted to cover belonging, especially because not belonging can be life or death in itself. And so for that, we did 29 and 7.
Thank you so much for sharing. You know, doing this particular activity and everything, as you've noticed, based off responses and everything, every room had a different diverse perspective and was able to go ahead and take away something different from this particular exercise. The reason I did go ahead and have this pretty much be an introduction, you know, to any of this particular conversation, because I feel that we can go ahead and really have a conversation about not knowing what to say and everything if we don't realize what is there to say in the beginning. What is going on in the beginning? What is happening? You know, what role do I go ahead and play into being an educator, you know, being a colleague, you know, being a parent, being a friend? What is that role that I do go ahead and play in? So I do appreciate everyone, one, leaning into the discomfort into this activity, because doing this activity was one, recognizing and maybe eliminating like some of our privileges, you know, maybe recognizing some of our biases that we do go ahead and have. Now I want to go into, now that we focus on the activity and everything, I really want to focus and have a framing on empathy. Because now that we have an understanding that these privileges are not for everybody. Everyone doesn't have access to these things, as little as, you know, some of these things may be. It's like everyone should have access to these things. I want us to take time and realize what is empathy and how can we go ahead and display that going forward when having conversations, not only with our staff, our students, but just with everyday people in general. One second here. Can everyone hear? Perfect.
So what is empathy and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, I'm down. I know what it's like down here, and you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no, you want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. Yeah. And we do it all the time, because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So I had a miscarriage. At least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now. I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
So I personally have seen this video so many times, and I'm pretty sure some of you in this particular space have also seen this video. And I love this video because it truly exemplifies what is empathy, and really shows the difference between, sympathy and empathy. And when having these conversations, these uncomfortable conversations and everything, leaning in with empathy is the most important thing. As going ahead and doing the privilege activity, we realized, some of those conversations weren't, uncomfortable. They were just like, oh, geez, what was going on? There may have been things that people may have been saying in those particular spaces that made us also feel the type of way. Like, why do they feel that way? What is going on and everything? Oh, they must like this and everything. Also, when there was some dialogue in there as well too, it was like, oh, I can understand where that person's coming from and everything. Like, oh, like they had that particular struggle here and everything. Like I also, have a similar experience where I felt the same way. So although in a lot of situations, we're not going to, the same thing may not apply to you in everything, but there's other ways that we can go ahead and just relate and just connect with other individuals going forward. One thing that I want to go ahead and focus on now are just some scenarios. But before we go into these scenarios, what I'm going to do, we're going to talk through these group work stages and how to address some of these scenarios. So when addressing the scenarios, I want us to really focus on clarifying the problem, identifying options, weighing outcomes, do it, listen, and reassess. With this particular activity, one thing I'm going to do first, give me 1 second here. I want everyone to, first of all, have this particular document. In the chat there, I did go ahead and drop the group work stages, there in the chat for you. It is 12:47 and our time today, we are until like 1:10-ish today and everything. So I want to go ahead and I'm not going to put us into breakout rooms, but with everyone having these group work stages, we're going to take on 2 scenarios here as a group and kind of walk through how to go ahead and have conversations. What does it go ahead and look like to have a conversation with people? And before I even do that, I'm going to take a poll because there's 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 options here. And I want to get everyone's feedback to ensure we're all working on the same one. Give me 1 second here. Okay, In regards to which one that we're going to go ahead and focus on, give me 1 second. Hey, Anne,
Yes,
could you do me a favor and read off the screen for me in order and everything, as my screen is just a little frozen?
absolutely. Am I reading the 4 bullet points?
You are?
Okay, so these are the 4 bullet points we are choosing between for our scenario. Bullet point number 1, a student/participant you work with on a regular basis shares with you that they are gay and are nervous to tell others and worried about how this will affect their hireability in the future. How do you support this person? Bullet point number 2, and if anybody wants me to repeat anything, please let me know. Bullet point number 2, you're giving a tour to someone who you are considering hiring, and they ask if the office is LGBTQ friendly. How might you respond? Option 3, bullet point 3, you've noticed a fellow staff member making comments that are subtly homophobic and transphobic, which are making you and others uncomfortable. You're unsure if this person realizes what they are saying is problematic or not. What might you do? And bullet point number 4, you bring up the idea of your office/team doing a diversity inclusion training. There's a lot of eye rolling and no one says anything affirming about the idea. Someone comments, quote, "We're all really accepting here. I don't think we need to do that sort of training," end quote. How might you respond?
Okay, thank you so much for that. One thing that I will go ahead and do, because one, I do want to be conscious of time and everything, and I do appreciate certain individuals just letting me know that they do have things to go ahead and do, for the rest of the day, and I do appreciate that. So with that being said, one thing I'm going to do, we're going to focus on one of the scenarios here and what's going to happen after this and everything. I will go ahead and everyone that is here and everything, just provide an additional resource of a breakdown of just different key tips of having these particular conversations with individuals going forward. So the one conversation that we will go ahead and focus on today will be the last bullet point here. So again, that one's going to be, you bring up the idea of your office/team doing a diversity inclusion training. There's a lot of eye rolling and no one says anything affirming about the idea. Someone comments, we're all really accepting here. I don't think we need to do that sort of training. How might you respond? The reason I did go ahead and just pick this one as our example to go ahead and use for our training today is simply because this is something that we all may be experiencing in some of our workplaces, as well as introducing more DEI, more material to our students and what that does go ahead and look like. So with having this conversation, I first want us to go ahead and show this particular slide here. So what is the problem and everything? And I want us to go ahead and work as a group to go ahead and do so. So anyone can either come off camera, come off mute, or go ahead and put in the chat, what is the problem with this particular question? So again, you're bringing up the idea that your office needs a DEI training. There's a lot of eye rolling. No one says anything affirming about the idea. Someone comments, hey, we're really accepting here. I don't think we need that sort of training. How might you respond? So what is the problem in that particular prompt?
I think the first thing that my brain thought of was like, you're bringing up an idea and your team is not supporting you in that idea. Like minus all the other things that are in it, like the very first thing is like you bring something up and everyone else around you is just kind of like not saying anything or not supporting you or not being like, oh yeah, that's a good idea.
I do agree. That overall ideology of, that separate acceptance and awareness and knowledge, like overall, like they may feel that way and everything, but as a group, like, hey, I want to hear what that person's saying. Like you may feel that as a group that we may all have this training, we may be all good and everything, but that's not the case. Something that I would go ahead and acknowledge here in everything again is that separate acceptance versus awareness and knowledge. So overall, like a statement that I think could be very beneficial here is, I think that we are all really accepting, but things change and sometimes we might not have the awareness or the knowledge to back up our value of acceptance. Always good to brush up on our understanding. So again, that person's really just acknowledging like, I may disagree and everything, but we could all go ahead and use some tools at this time as a collective to go ahead and brush up on our DI skills. It is hard to have to start discussions with your colleagues, if no one, responds to your ideas or questions, because it's like, if what I'm saying, is it not valid? Is it not important and everything? So the biggest thing is also really providing that reframing and everything. And communicate the importance of going ahead and doing so. So for example, with that particular prompt there, it's like, hey, I want to go ahead and show my screen again. For this one here, see, there's a lot of eye rolling. No one says anything affirming about the idea. Someone comments, we're really accepting here. I don't think we need to do that sort of training. We could go ahead and reframe that there and show the importance. Hey, as things are changing in the world and things are going on and everything since 2020, we want to go ahead and make sure that we have the tools to make sure that our students can go ahead and succeed in everything. So figuring out a way to go ahead and, although we may not agree, to bridge the gap to figure out what is the high level of importance from this particular prompt. I do have a hand raised, Jen.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that actually what came to me whenever I first saw this or read this was more to do with the eye rolling and such. It's having to give up your day and having to, it's like, "Ugh, I have so much to do. I really don't have time for this type of thing." And it was less about, in my head, it was less about thinking that, everybody has issues. We can all use help. I took it less as that and more of, oh my gosh, I don't want to take the time and go to here and do this. And I have other things to do.
Jen, I really...
How you combat that, I don't know, but that's what sort of came to me first.
The impression I have is that maybe that the DEI has been, it's an activity that has been repeated often, and there we go again with the same topic over and over again. So whatever topic it is, people sometimes get tired of it, and they end up developing an apathetic attitude toward it.
Thank you so much, Jen and Robert, for going ahead and speaking. And that's a main reason why I did want to go ahead and focus on this particular prompt, because when I say DI training and everything, DI training in all of our workspaces and everything does not always have the most positive connotation at times. Sometimes it's like, why are we doing this? Why is this happening again and everything? Or in certain demographics or certain groups of people and everything, why is this person presenting this to me and everything, and they don't identify like me? There's a lot of conversations that can go ahead and come up, which can go ahead and create hostility. So Jen, I do appreciate you going ahead and pointing out like, hey, it may not be the simple fact that I don't want to hear about the topic, but I don't want to just take the time out of my day to go ahead and do so and everything. And with having conversations in general and being uncomfortable with different things, those are things that should be considered when communicating, so Jen, like, if feeling that way, it's like, hey, like, I know how important this particular training is and everything. However, at this time, like, based off previous trainings and everything, I don't want to go ahead and take the time out of my day to go and do so. So there's still a way to go ahead and navigate that particular way with still acknowledging that this is important and everything, and this still needs to go ahead and be taken care of, if that makes sense, Jen.
And if this is Anne, if I can just interject real quick, I think there's also, just to highlight what some folks are saying in the chat, a lot of people took that part of this differently. What was the eye roll for? And another one is the eye roll because, of course, you're bringing this up. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, a lot of good conversation going on in the chat there.
Thank you. Again, and the reason I chose this particular topic is because this particular prompt here is unpacking so much that we have to go ahead and just really look at. So with one, clarifying the problem here, we know the problem, there's two problems in a way. Like, what is the overall point of the eye rolling? What is happening there and everything, and really figuring out what that is. And then identifying options. And Jen, I really appreciate you going ahead and sharing that perspective again, just knowing like, hey, like, it may not just be because this person just doesn't want to hear about this. And to Robert's point, it may just be to hey, like we've had this whole repetitive DI situation all over again. Like, why am I going to this training again? There's different ways to go ahead and examine, why people are feeling the way they're feeling in your workspace. Then weighing those outcomes. So just like I said, figuring out the best way to go ahead and bring up, your concerns. Like, hey, like Charles, you mentioned that we have this DI training and everything. I don't really want to take the time out of my day to go ahead and do so, simply because the last time that I went into a training, like this is how I felt. Or, hey, like we're always having trainings around DEI and everything. And, if you could provide the clarification why this is important right now, that is important. And I know it could go ahead and be like, well, Charles, you said, why is this important and everything? We're curious, we're humans. Asking a question why this is important and everything doesn't make you a racist, doesn't make you homophobic, doesn't make you transphobic, doesn't make you any of those things and everything. You're curious and you want to go ahead and know, why is this information, why do I need to go ahead and learn about this? And that's important for people to go ahead and reframe, for them to go ahead and do. And then lastly, do it, listen, reassess. With this particular prompt here, I'm going to read it one more time. You bring up the idea of your office team doing a diversity inclusion training. There's a lot of eye rolling. No one says anything affirming about the idea. Someone comments, we're all really accepting here. I don't think we need to do that sort of training. How might you respond? Right? And honestly, like, it's a lot that goes into this. So again, going back into, this is not for you. If it's not for you and everything, realizing what could this training be beneficial for other people in my agency? Although I feel the type of way that I can't take the time out of my day, I think this training is pointless and everything. Is this training going to be beneficial to those around me? And what does that look like? As well as sometimes our impressions don't align. It's something great to go in and say, like, I would like to think of myself as a very, accepting person. And I know that I have some areas of growth as well. However, it's not easy to know what you don't know, and training help, inside some of those gaps that may not be able to see what we may see. So providing that framing of, hey, I don't necessarily understand what's happening. I don't understand why this training is important. I don't understand, why this is being brought up, or just that confusion. Again, showing that level of understanding, empathy, and being able to go ahead and communicate all sides and it being received. And again, to Jen and Robert's point, they were able to go ahead and look at this prompt. And although the way that I did go ahead and communicate it and being perceived and everything was not how Jen and Robert did go ahead and perceive it and everything, but that's the point of these particular, courageous conversations going forward. But I see that we do have a couple chats and everything in the...
Yeah, and actually, if I can just read off something Stephanie said in the chat that's, I think, incredibly poignant. She says, I think the "we're really accepting here" part really irks me, because the person who is bringing up DEI training is bringing it up for a reason. Why do we as a society want to rely upon someone who is in a marginalized group to educate and organize the education, which is a really good point. So if somebody is bringing it up, then you probably need it. And we have quite a few people saying, yes, we very much agree. If the topic is on the table, then we need something. So yes, thank you very much, Stephanie, and others for those comments.
Yes, and again, this particular session here and everything is, these conversations it's just not a one-stop all conversation. And as we are kind of getting to time and everything, I want to go ahead and ensure that you all have access to different ways to address some of these other questions and everything on the prompt and everything. But I do want to ensure that we do have time for me to just answer questions and everything, as just coming out of this and being in the breakout rooms in general. One thing that I do think is a part 2 of this particular session is needed, just for us to go ahead and work through some of just more scenarios, as well as to hear more feedback, about this session. We really did recognize what are our privileges and everything, but recognizing those privileges, but how can they go ahead and be used in the workforce going forward. So I do want to go ahead and just open up 2 questions, and as well too, if you want to go ahead and have an individual one-on-one session with me, my email is listed here, and I will go ahead and put it in the chat as well too, for us to go ahead and have those follow-up conversations. But as of now, please go ahead and just raise your hand, come off mute, put in the chat, and we'll have some questions. Nikki?
My question is, what do you recommend when talking to somebody from a different background and trying to describe the disadvantages that they may face, but not trying to say it in an offensive way, rather than just like stumbling over your words? Like, what is a better way to go about it?
Yeah. The one first thing that I would go ahead and do in that particular situation is one, acknowledge that you're listening, acknowledge that you're hearing them and everything, and be transparent. Like, although that, I may not have, experience, what you're experiencing and everything, I am here to go ahead and support, going forward, and just, again, showing that level of empathy and just overall being there. Because as you saw in the empathy video earlier, there's very limited things that we can go ahead and say to go ahead and fix the situation, unfortunately. But you going ahead and being there and showing up, and just, again, sitting in silence, or whatever that may look like for that individual is the most important to them going forward.
Thank you.
Of course. And I want you to go ahead and also know, Nikki, that is something that you can't go ahead and just like figure out overnight. It is also a work in progress. And it's also okay to realize that you will go ahead and make mistakes, talking to people from different backgrounds and everything. And it's just a way you go ahead and address that mistake. So just, hey, I apologize. I didn't mean to go ahead and offend you, or different things like that. Don't start the conversation with, hey, I don't mean to offend you, but can I ask you a question? But if you do go ahead and say something and you notice a facial expression, you notice body language, something, hey, I didn't mean to offend you and everything. I was just curious about X, Y, and Z. Let them know your overall intentions. And I think that's where in society, it kind of gets a little hard. We get a little scared to be curious because we don't understand how people are going to go ahead and react. But as long as, for me, having the ideology that everyone has good intentions and figuring out how to go ahead and navigate this world is something that is a challenge, but I'm pretty sure that we can all eventually go ahead and get to that particular space. And Robert, I do want to go ahead and note, I do agree that this particular session today, it does feel like it was very short. Simply because with the privilege for sale activity and everything, like it did go ahead and it was a lot to go ahead and really unpack and everything. And that was a great feedback for me for doing this particular activity in an hour type of session and everything was not the best activity to go ahead and do. However, I do understand it was a very great activity for us to go ahead and have that open conversation with. So we will go ahead and work with ASCOE to go together to figure out how we can go ahead and reschedule a part 2 for this conversation. So again, I do appreciate you pointing that out. Are there any more questions, comments? And again, if you would like more information about the privilege for sale activity today, anything like that, please just go ahead and email me and I can go ahead and provide that information to you. So that way, if you would like to go ahead and do that activity with your own, your own workplace, your own organization, you feel free to go ahead and do so. If you would like me to go ahead and help facilitate or lead that as well, I can do that as well. Okay. I will go ahead and stop sharing my screen now. And again, I do appreciate you all being in this particular space today. I will go ahead and provide the presentation will go ahead and be sent to all of you. So that way, if some of you could not go ahead and see it for, for whatever reason and everything, I want to ensure that you have that information going forward. But without further ado, again, I appreciate all of you being here today. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out to me via email. And I'm going to put my email in the chat one more time.
Thank you so much, Charles. It was wonderful.
Of course, thank you so much.